I'm Josh Kelly, welterweight, currently 6-0, fighting for the Commonwealth title. Follow sport icons.
Okay, so something I've been thinking about for the past couple of weeks is that if you are part of the 11-person squad who went to the Olympic Games, representing Great Britain at this year's Tokyo Olympics in Japan, where do you go next? Now, of course, 9 of them, their Olympics has now come to an end. 2 of them are still waiting on Lauren Price and Galal Yafai as to where they're going to finish up on the podium, but of course they're guaranteed their medals. Now, where do you go? Do you continue the amateur path? Do you go to Paris in only 3 years' time? Again, that's not long, if you really think about it, because as a amateur, you get paid. And if you're heading towards the Olympics, you get paid very well. You're fighting regularly. But all you've got to do is do the circuits of the Europeans, the Worlds, the Commonwealths, and before you know it, you're going through the qualifiers and Paris is upon you. So that's one thing to look at. Again, your age will be determined of that one. How much career you've had as an amateur already, that will be determined. Whether or not you medalled, that will be a factor. If I had to choose one person to go to Paris, I would advise Caroline Dubois to do that because she's still very, very young. Well, she's what, 20, 21 years old? Very good fighter. I think that she could have, and maybe should have, medalled at this year's Olympics. She didn't let herself down, by the way. I thought that she won her fight, if I'm being brutally honest with you. But at the end of the day, she's the one that I think should go to Paris. It's a risk. Of course it's a risk, because you could go through the circuits for like the next 2 years, go through the qualifiers and not qualify. It's a risk. Of course, everything is risk and reward. Or do you turn pro? I mean, I can look at, say, maybe the twins, Luke and Pat McCormack. Pat McCormack, of course, he's got the silver medal. Very, very proud of them. They're from my neck of the woods up here in the northeast of England. This is where I was born. This is where I currently live. Tell by my accent, I've lost it quite some years ago. But I know their area very well, of Washington. In fact, as a kid, I mean, we moved around a fair bit. Washington was one of them. I lived there for about 2 years, I think, maybe 3 years, something like that, down at Blackfell, an area that I'm sure that they're very, very familiar with. And the galleries, always in and out the gallery centre. But where do they go? They're going to have to make a decision. Now, of course, I knew certain things even before the Olympics. I knew that they were going to be turning pro once this Olympics was going to be over and done with. Okay, this was win, lose or draw at this Olympics. They're going to be turning pro. I knew this already. Of course, I know most people up in the northeast of England. I'm pretty much the eyes and ears of the northeast. Not much happens and I don't know about it. In fact, I even know, or at least I heard, it's potential rumour, well it is a rumour I suppose, that they were even offered a deal before they even went to the Olympic Games. They were offered a deal by promoters in the form of money. Give us first refusal after the Olympics. Okay? Now, where do they go? Well, they're going to have to make the same decisions as everybody else, but I can use them as an example. Do you stay at Berkeley? Stay with Graham? What do? Do you change gyms? Do you go with a different trainer? Do you stay in the northeast? Do you do what Josh Kelly done? Move down south? Obviously, Josh Kelly went down there with Adam Booth now. What do you do? Who's going to be your manager? Who's going to be your promoter? Where do you go? Now, I spoke to amateurs who are turning pro for the last few years, not just up in the northeast of England, but up and down the country and that as well. And every single one of them, when I've always asked the question, you're turning pro, who do you want to sign with? Without fail, every single person, Eddie Hearn, Sky Sports. Now, is that going to be the same now? With that Eddie Hearn is no longer with Sky Sports? Now he's with, exclusive with DAZN. If I was to ask and put out the question right now for all of you, if you was in their situation, where do you go? Because again, obviously, depends on the kind of offers that you're going to be getting through. If you medalled, if you've got a bronze medal, you've got promoters, managers knocking on your door. You get a silver, they're kicking down your door and your windows. If you get a gold, they're bringing the battering ram and the squad round to kick in your doors and make sure that you sign with them. They're going to be throwing all kinds of money at you. Are you money motivated or are you career motivated? Are you both? If you're career motivated, the money will come. If you're money motivated, the money will come pretty soon, but your career may not last too long because you'll be thrown in the deep end maybe a bit too soon. So there's so many different ways of looking at it. Of course, when we're looking at domestically, of course, they're going to have probably options with, say, Bob Arum of Top Rank. They're going to have maybe some approaches from the PPC. and Oscar De La Hoya and whatever else. But here domestically, who are we talking about? Well, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom DAZN, Ben Shalom, John Wish and Sky Sports, Frank Warren with BT Sport, Mick Hennessy, Channel 5, maybe Dennis Hobson with FightZone. Is he still with Eurosport? I don't know. Maybe you could be looking at Team Sauerland with Wasserman. They don't have TV currently, but they have links with all of them. So there's so many different options. Where's the best place to go? Most people will go, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, DAZN, that's the place to be. But is it? I'll tell you for why. Because they have a huge, huge squad. Huge squad. Maybe you go there and you'll be lost in the shuffle. It could happen. If you go and say Sky Sports, they're rebuilding their product right now. They're building their stable. I know some of the fighters who's already agreed to go with them. And all that will be announced pretty sharpish. I don't quite know what's taking so long. But all that will be announced pretty soon. And I know people say, but they don't really have anybody. Why would you go with Sky Sports now? Because Eddie Hearn's not there. Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Because at least now, not only can you get paid well, not only do you have a fantastic platform in Sky Sports, but they have the time and the resources, the money to invest in you. They need a new face of Sky Sports boxing. New faces, they need them. In other words, they're going to put time and effort into your career, into you, to make you a superstar. You're not going to be part of the pack, as what it could be with DAZN. If you were to look at, say, the 2016 Olympians from Rio for GB, Joe Joyce, he turned pro. It's still baffling to me as to why he joined David Haye. That still is a bit of a head scratcher for me. But he went with David Haye. He went over to PBC. Now he's with Frank Warren. And he hasn't had that many fights, really, if you think about it. But he's changed trainers more often than people have changed socks in that period. But he's now one fight away from knocking on the door of a world title, isn't he? Dan Dubois, he's taken a loss. Now he's WBA interim champion. He's one win away, potentially, from a world title shot. Would that be Anthony Joshua or Trevor Bryan? Either way, it's a world title, right? Anthony Yard didn't have any amateur career. Well, he had a world title shot. Sonny Edwards, world champion. The list goes on. Of course, Frank Warren has excellent links with the WBO. So that's a very good option. All of these options, all the promoters that I spoke about are all good options. There's no wrong option here. There's no wrong option. But if you, again, sticking with the 2016 Olympians, Matchroom, Eddie Hearn. Well, Anthony Fowler, Joshua Boazzi, Josh Kelly, Joe Cordina, Lawrence Okoli. Well, it's only really Lawrence Okoli who's got a world title. 5 years in, he's the only one with a world title. 5 years after the 2016 Rio Olympics. 5 years. Anthony Fowler has only had 16 fights. Josh Kelly has only had 12. Joe Cordina only had 12. Boazzi, similar. I don't care if you're an Olympian or not, your first 2 years, you should be getting 6-7 fights per year, minimum. You go through the journeyman. You do all those kind of ones. You fight regularly. But because he's got such a huge squad, he can't fit everybody on. He can't do it. That's why they don't have that many fights. Andy Fowler has yet to win a British, a Commonwealth or a European. Josh Kelly, he's won the Commonwealth. I still don't know why he vacated that, by the way. Joshua Boazzi, he has won the British. Cordina, he has won the British. But none of them, outside of Coley, is knocking on the door of a world title. Why is that? 5 years, you're an Olympian. You are an Olympian. You should be knocking on the door of that world title. I'm not saying that they should have got the world title shot by now. I'm saying is they should at least be on the door and in consideration for a world title. But with Eddie Hearn, what he does is you don't get an awful lot of fights under him, and you will get the British. As soon as you get the British, forget the Commonwealth, forget the European for the most part. Of course there are exceptions, of course. Straight into a world title fight before you're ready, because you haven't been built correctly. And that's happened a lot. That's happened a lot. Far too much for me to go, yeah, he can guide fighters. But again, people will look at and say, well, look what he done with Anthony Joshua. 2012, London, Olympic Games. Yeah, but I think Anthony Joshua was always going to be a superstar. He was always going to be world champion. Would he be as big a star had he have gone with Frank Warren or Mick Hennessy or somebody else outside Eddie Hearn and Sky Sports? Maybe not, but he'd still be a huge name. He'd still be a big player in the heavyweight division. By the way, I'm not saying that anybody shouldn't go with Eddie Hearn and Care. I'm not suggesting that at all. Not suggesting that at all. But what's he done with the 2016 squad? Lawrence Okoli. Okay, Lawrence Okoli. He won the British, Commonwealth and the European, and then the world. Hasn't had that many fights, so he's done fantastic. But that's a cruiserweight. No disrespect to the cruiserweight division, not exactly deep. Not exactly deep. He hasn't and didn't fight to get world championship. Usyk, he's now heavyweight. Muragassiev, he's now heavyweight. He hasn't fought Marius Bredis or Dorticus or anyone like that. There's always a route to get to a world title. Will he be found wanting at some point? Well, I don't know, because he does have a very good trainer in Shane McGuigan. But again, this isn't the criticism of Lawrence Okoli. He could fight Marius Bredis and beat him, and Dorticus and anybody else. He could do that, of course. I still want to see him take on Richard Riakporhe. I still want to see that. But the point is, he's taking the short route. It's the easier route, isn't it? Or easier route. Of course, it's not an easy route. Of course, it's not. But a lot of people saying, oh, he's no good. He hugs and he holds and this, that and the other. For me, that was always a little bit too critical of Lawrence Okoli. But the point is, what platform do you go with? For me, I would certainly look at Sky Sports. They are the ones who are building. By the way, I don't have any links with Sky Sports, by the way. But they are building. They have the time, they have the money to invest in you, to build your career path and do it correctly. With Matchroom, you ain't going to fight that regularly because you've got so many fighters that you can't get them all out. Yes, of course, he's got a global platform. Sky Sports is UK. I don't quite know what the deal is with Sky Sports and ESPN. I know the ESPN fight nights are shown on Sky Sports, but will Sky Sports be shown on ESPN? I don't know if it's a two-way street. I don't know. Frank Warren, BT Sport, they seem to have lost that ESPN deal. So, again, they're just UK. Channel 5 is just UK. But again, Channel 5, if you're going to go with Mick Hennessy, everybody who has a TV in the United Kingdom has Channel 5. So it is actually a bigger network than everybody else. FightZone, was it 20 quid for a year? That's pretty cheap. DAZN, at the minute, yes, it's £2 a month. It will go up. I'm hearing that it's going to be about £6 a month. Something like that. So there is no right or wrong answer, but for me, if you're one of the Olympians, you need to go with Sky Sports. If you're Luke and Pat McCormack, you need to go with Sky Sports. That's where you need to go. Because I think that they probably will get lost in the shuffle. Don't get me wrong, they're strong enough and good enough to break out of the monopoly, and if you like, the stable of just being part of the squad. They're good enough to do it. There's no guarantees, because there is a difference between amateur and pro. If I was them, I would go with Sky Sports. Because they need the headliners. They need the faces. You could be the faces. You could be. I'm not saying you will be. I'm saying you could be. Frazer Clarke, Galal Yafai, Ben Whittaker. For sure, they're going to go with Eddie Hearn. Just look at Galal Yafai. Look at where his family is. Like Cal and that. Where are they? With Eddie Hearn. So Galal will go there. Frazer Clarke, Ben Whittaker, and Galal Yafai. They're linked. They're like brothers from other mothers. Where one goes, the other ones will go. Karriss Artingstall, where's she going to go? Again, she should probably maybe look at Sky Sports. But again, she's a female fighter. Most female fighters are with Eddie Hearn. Again, just to clarify as well, 5 years after 2016 Olympic Games, yes, you could look at Lawrence Okoli. Yes, you could look at, say, a Katie Taylor. That's my point. Why have the rest of them not done it? Why is that? Why is it that Josh Kelly's only had 12 fights? Joe Cordina only had 12 fights. Andy Fowler is only just now stepping up in his 17th fight. Why is that? For me, I don't think Eddie Hearn is great at matchmaking. I don't think he's great with a career path, but he's good at making you famous. He's good at putting money in your pocket. Which one is it that you want? Anyway, that's my thoughts. You drop me yours. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all in the next video.